This is the stuff dreams are made of. I'm writer-collector Ryan Condal.
And I'm writer-collector Dave Mandel, and you're listening to the original movie prop collecting podcast. This is our second or third day in a row. We've just been doing episodes. We're just recording, and
like Jeopardy.
I am bleary-eyed. I don't know what we've talked about and what we haven't talked about and what we're supposed to talk about.
Yeah.
But as always, brought to you by Heritage Auctions, ha.com. Today there actually is that Cecil B. DeMille auction, but by the time this airs, all of those auctions will be over. But they've got a whole bunch of incredible things coming up this fall, including the recently announced here on The Stuff Dreams Are Made Of, Guillermo del Toro Bleak House auction, where Guillermo del Toro will be selling off a couple of things from his collection as he attempts to fireproof his life a little bit, or something like that, I think.
This is my Bleak House because Caitlin finally had enough. I got another new mannequin in, and she said that's it, and you're going off to Surrey to live in a hotel, so I had to
she requested she requested You Never Return, a little Odd Couple action.
Yeah, exactly. GTFO.
Well, I actually think that looks like a very lovely hotel. Like I imagined they would have you in some sort of like Hagrid's shed or something. Do you know what I mean?
That'd
like
be nice.
There'd be hay on the floor, and that's kind of what, I don't know, like a hotel in the woods of Surrey would look like. No, apparently not.
No, This is it's better than the Wales accommodations. Those are kind of few and far between. I think more people do rental homes up there. I just don't think there's a ton of hotel game up there. This is very nice. I'm in Surrey. We've started our next big bank of location work. We're actually here for sort of all around Surrey for the next couple of months.
Oh my God.
So
will you just go home on the weekends basically, or it depends?
No, well, because we still have we're 2 units. So
you got to go back and see the other unit
here. Yeah. Fire units at Leavesden, so I will be spending mostly based out of Leavesden. I will come here for key scenes, but because most of the it's just easier to have a productive day at the studio, because that's where all the departments are, and you can go and see things, and you can sit with visual effects and look at sequences as they're coming together.
I'm assuming they have Q takes or whatever, so you could watch any take from the unit you're not with at any given time, or if they had questions or such, right? Yeah.
Yes, and I also have very experienced covering writer producers who are here. We're in constant communication, WhatsApps, FaceTimes, phone calls, all that. We do these very detailed tone meetings and things. So there shouldn't be much mystery on the day. It's just about ticking all the boxes and making sure that nothing really off is going on, and then it's just dialing in tone and performance. I mean, that's the
I
thing.
fully understand that is how you have to do it with 2 units. I mean, I don't know how you would I don't know how you would get the show done. There probably should be 3 units, quite honestly. You could not get the show done. I think I would be driven insane with the idea that there was something being shot that I can't be at. I would lose my fucking mind. You just have
to get over it.
I understand that. Intellectually I understand it, but
no, it does take a bit of doing, but I think that's that level of remove has, I think, helped me be a better showrunner, better producer, just in terms of not being, not being so like directorially involved in a way where like you're sitting on everything. And like, it's funny, sometimes I actually find it easier to cut the scenes that I wasn't there for versus the ones that I was, because you do, like sometimes directors get caught up in like, well, this is how I intended the scene to cut when I shot it, but then you're like, but no, this is actually, look at this thing that I did with your footage.
That's not working. This is, or whatever.
And look, that's not always the case, but anyway, I have no choice. Best seasons, Dave, I miss 50% of the material because I can't be there. It's better. Sometimes we have 2 units running at Leavesden, which is actually great, because then it's really efficient, because then it's you look at one setup, you move over to the next thing. Where do I need to be today? You can have your meetings, you can go back, check in on sets. So you really feel I really feel like I'm producing now. Whereas this stuff can be the sort of frustrating unknown.
Like I said, fully understand it. Just luckily have not had to deal with it for. Yeah.
But I have a really super duper team of directors and writers, and everybody's kind of rowing the boat in the same direction. So things have been going really, really well. But yeah, we're doing huge stuff out here in the woods and valleys and fields of Surrey, and we've built some stuff out here. So I'm really excited.
And Surrey is southwest of London, basically.
It's sort of like it's kind of like southwest, more west than south, but southwest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like if you were like leaving London to like sort of start making your way to Cornwall, which is Land's End. Sort of in the kind of this most southwesterly point of London, the closest point to America. Gotcha. in England. You would kind of go through Surrey to get there, if that makes sense.
Where are the Cotswolds?
That's north.
Okay.
Yeah, that's sort of like kind of northwestish of London, sort of different direction.
And that's kind of like fancy Christmas vacation kind of thing.
Yeah,
there?
Yeah. The sort of pastoral villages or Cotswolds, the pastoral kind of like farms, fields, hiking trails, forests. That's more Surrey.
Gotcha.
It's like vacation homeland. Bigger. I would say, in a very generalistic way, the bigger plots of lands, the big sort of, I have 10 acres out in Surrey.
Right.
The Cotswolds tend to be
maybe more of an estate than a house.
Exactly.
Lovely.
But it's very beautiful out here, particularly in the summer when the sun's up before 5 a.m, and it's 10 here and it's still pretty light out. So it's very nice. What's been going on with you, Dave?
Very quiet.
Staying in any hotels in Surrey?
I have not. No hotels in Surrey. My last batch of hotels, because it was my college tour with my daughter, and it was just like when we first started and we were sort of near Boston, we started in Courtyard Marriott's, and then it was just into hotels you've never heard of. We were really like verging on motels, but that was where we were. We were kind of in Vermont, and all over. We were away from from city life, where I am not my most comfortable, but such is.
Yes, I very much enjoyed your Sopranos TikTok.
That was my daughter and I bonding, so thank you. I appreciate that.
It was very, very enjoyable. So do you have I know we just spoke, but do you have a what's new in props?
Since yesterday, I do technically. I do.
I have a good one.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, good. Okay, yours will be better. I'll go quick. Prop adjacent. It is Star Wars related, but it is not. Shockingly, it's Star Wars related, but it is not actually a movie prop per se. In the most recent Heritage original comic art auction, brought to you by Prop Store, the cover. I'll back it up very quickly. When the original Star Wars came out. There's a very famous story of sort of Star Wars saving Marvel Comics, they always say, because Marvel, which was in trouble at the time, did the adaptation and made a lot of money with these adaptations. And it came out in two forms. It came out in sort of a monthly comic book, the first 6 issues. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the wonderful thing about issue 7 was then new adventures started. And then those individual issues were collected into large treasuries. So there were 2 treasuries of 3 each, and then a third treasury that had all 6 in. So anyway, long story short,
that's the adaptation of the movie.
That is Star Wars, and it includes things because when I guess Roy Thomas was doing the script and whatnot, Biggs was still in at the beginning of the movie, so things like that. So it's got some bits and pieces, and also I'm not sure when they actually saw the movie, so they were kind of working from stills and whatnot. So certain things, like on the cover to issue 1, I think the lasers are coming out of the nose of the like, you know what I mean, like as if there's like a cannon in the nose of the X-wing. Anyway, but. I those original 6 issues are just like, some of my fondest and earliest memories of like reading those comics, like with my father, like on the beach that summer. So like these are visceral memories. And starting in about, I guess this would have been 90. I was still on Seinfeld, so I'm going to say around 97. I was able to purchase the cover to Star Wars 1, basically the first issue.
That
I've
early,
had that in my collection for a very long time. And then a couple of years later, I picked up the cover to Star Wars 3. So I had 1 and 3. And then many, many years later, I helped Scott Dunbier with the Star Wars Artist Edition, which was sort of the books that published the original art, like the full size original art. And I was sort of like, I don't have a title on it, but I was the main helper on that book, helping to put it all together, but also sharing my collection in it. And when that went on, Scott tracked down the covers to 2 and 6, which were in the hands of Tom Palmer, the wonderful inker. Long time now, sadly, rest in peace, but just wonderful inker who just worked on all the greats and was a great himself. Worked on Neil Adams, worked on John Buscema, among others, and worked on top of Howard Chaykin, who's the artist, and so we got the scans from Tom. I got to know Tom, and a few years later, he was very gracious in selling me the 2 and the 6. So then I had 1, 2, 3, 6. And we knew where 5 was, but we had no idea where 4 was. 4, we never had a scan. We never had anything. The guy who had 5, we tried to reach a deal a number of times, never quite reached a deal. And about a year ago, more or less, he put it into Heritage, where most comic art, a lot of comic art ends up, of course. And I won it. So I had the 5, and so at that point then the 5 of the 6, and finally in this last auction.
That's your peak of madness, right? Because now it's like, I need this other thing. I will be incomplete.
The 4 now showed itself. I think I'm getting the numbers right. I hope I'm not messing the numbers up. I'm terrible with numbers sometimes. The 4 showed itself. Yeah, it is the 4. The 4 showed itself. No idea where it came from. Just from a collector. It kind of went in. I did a very good job, dare I say, of, other than incredibly close friends, not telling anybody that I had 5 of the 6, because I think when it comes to comic art and collecting in general, there are, I think, unfortunately, people that, whether they know you or not, kind of want to fuck with your shit, and it's like, well, he really needs it. I'm going to bid him up just to be an asshole. Yeah. That is unfortunately the world of collecting sometimes. And also, look, I've been in collecting a long time, and there are people that really fucking hate me. So there's that too. So I kept my mouth shut. And it's okay because I fucking hate them, but I kept my mouth shut. I didn't want anybody to know. Like I said, only a couple of close friends that really knew. And I won the 4 for a pretty okay number. I'm really happy. And now I have all 6 of the original Star Wars covers. And it's one of those things that, it's a little bit like piecing together a full costume or something like that. But this one, I mean, if you'd asked me, I would not have thought it was possible.
I mean, really, if you go back to Star Wars.
50 years of Star Wars, but like 30 years of collecting comic art, more or less.
That's great.
And I honestly didn't think it was possible. And all 6. So I'm really, really excited. Yeah. So that's my What's New in Props. How about you? What's new in props?
Have you ever done any grudge bidding yourself?
Have I done any grudge bidding? No, because what happened was, I'm trying to think. I probably have. I really can't think of what it was, but I think I probably knew that someone wanted something, and I just fucking was like, fuck them.
I think there's two kinds. I think there's I want this, but I know I'm not going to win it, but I'm not going to let it go. I'm not just going to back down.
I've done some of that. I've done like I'm going to keep it honest. By the way, I've also gone higher than I wanted to go because I was pretty sure I knew who I was bidding against, and I fucking hated them so much. I was like if I like normally it was like, I'm going to stop at 50, but I hate this guy so much that I'm not going to let them win, and I just kept going. So I've definitely done that. I'm not sure I've known of a situation where like it was something I didn't want, and I was told this guy's going after it. Yeah.
That's the dark version.
There's a guy recently, a guy I know. I won't say his name, but he is trying to complete one of the X-Men issues that was drawn by Paul Smith. And I think, unfortunately, he has let the world know, people seem to know that he's looking for this issue. And the final page, I think it was the last page of the issue, was in this last Heritage auction. So it was an interesting thing because I was trying to put something together and he was trying to put something together, and people knew in his case and didn't know in mine. And I think before the day of the auction, his piece was already at like $40,000 or $50,000, which was just clearly people bidding him up to be assholes. So so shit like that does happen. Yeah. How about you? What's new in props?
Well, I had I teased this a little bit. I had Chris Barton working on the great Chris Barton, maker of all of the displays in the Condell archive, making a new display for me, full mannequin.
By the way, I would really laugh if you had just figured out a way, because you do have like studio people, whatever, and had one of the prop trucks come by, grab your the Kirk away uniform, drive it to the hotel so that it was sitting, even though you're clearly in a hotel, it would just be kind of sitting right over your left shoulder like it always was. Yeah. Just exactly kind of the same spot, but not. Anyway, sorry. But Chris Barton, go on, continue.
He made a recent delivery to my house, and it's very tied in with the subject of the email, the podcast tonight. I managed to put together this.
Yes, by the way, speaking of putting together costumes, which I didn't even realize till you just started saying that.
I would say 75% complete Deckard costume.
Over how many years? When did you start this? I don't remember. Forgive me.
This is going back 8 years.
Nice.
Yeah, 8 years
That's
since I acquired the shirt, and then the sort of the blazer and the trousers came together. They were in a package deal, and then I had a pair of replica shoes commissioned from this guy Indy Magnoli, who makes all the very best sort of to the stitch replica Blade Runner stuff. And I tracked down the one last replica tie that he had that's correct to my shirt. Nobody has ever seen the original. The original in theory is probably lost through real clothes, because whoever bought it didn't know what it was.
Worn as we speak. There's somebody sitting in a
very 80s ties with the
in
square
a call
bottom.
Center somewhere is just wearing it hi, can I help you? No, I'm sorry, your internet is broken.
Sadly lost the time. But I had put together the torso previously, but now I've run out of room in that case, so I had to get it out of the case. So I just said, well, fuck it, I want the full mannequin eventually anyway. I want Chris to build it, I might as well have him do it now. So he put it all together. We're cutting in photos of it now. Bart is doing that.
Oh my god, these photos are incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, it came together really incredibly, and I told Chris I really wanted to display it with the torn shirt tail out, the way it looks in the lobby card, and I will post also now a photo of the lobby card.
Oh my god, look at that lobby card.
Where you see it in action when he's climbing around the outside of the Bradbury building. But it looks exactly as that. It's the correct style of trousers from that sequence. It's not the trousers from that specific sequence, and the correct, obviously the correct blazer. The big thing that it's missing beyond the shoes is the trench coat, and that's the thing that really I think makes it come together. And look, hopefully one of those turns up, but I'm pretty damn happy with this. As far as it goes,
it's pretty incredible. It's
close to complete Deckard costume, and I owe my close to complete Deckard costume to our guest tonight, Mr. Dan Lanigan, who very kindly worked out a deal with me on this when this is after the news of that full Deckard costume that came up through Prop Store a couple years ago. When that showed up, he knew I had a shirt, but I was looking for other pieces. He had random other pieces, but was looking specifically for the costume pieces included in this, particularly the shoes, which no shoes had ever turned up before. Right. This also had a jacket matched to the Voight Kampf sequence, which he has the shirt and tie to. So he put together a kind of Voight Kampf Deckard, and I put together the Bradbury Deckard, which I think goes with my stunt pistol, because I think my stunt pistols match the Bradbury sequence when Batty pulls it out of his hand. So it sort of worked out for both of us. I was fine not having having the shoes.
Is the pistol in the hand of the mannequin or no?
No, I didn't do that, because it's just too delicate. I built this really, Chris built this really nice stand for it that supports it in all the places where the weight can actually take it. And I think messing with the hand would mess with it, and that would be out there in the open. So that will always kind of be displayed on its own. But I just like the pride of this jacket. It's the pride of this costume. It stands
incredible.
on its own, and it looks really great. So really happy with that. And I'm getting every last square inch of my office is now kind of taken over and consumed by props. They're sort of slowly closing in around me. So,
but your hotel room is empty.
The next, that's true. Next couple of years are going to be very interesting as new things turn up and come in, as they always do. But it's a great segue to bring in Dan. We've been wanting to have him back on the podcast for a while now because he's always interesting to talk to. He's one of the kind of our oldest collector friends in the business. His wealth of knowledge is very deep. He takes this stuff very seriously. He's a really stand-up guy, so he's really committed to truth and authenticity and all the things that all of us should be very committed to, but Dan is particularly so. And in pursuit of that, he's created a new web series called Cinema Relics Investigates, and it's all about sort of what Dave and I are trying to do on this podcast, but done to a much deeper level, about like one piece at a time and going in, learning the history of it and trying to authenticate it.
It's really like every episode is a deep dive in a way.
Yeah.
Maybe not every version, although sometimes, but very much like, let's really, put it under the microscope. And and we wanted him on to talk all about it. So
so let's bring him on and hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
All right, so everybody give a warm Stuff Dreams Are Made Of welcome to former guest and hopefully future guest, Dan Lanigan. Dan, welcome back. Really good to have you.
It's always good to hang out with you guys.
From your undisclosed basement location. Am I even allowed to say the word basement? I don't even know.
That's right. It's officially on the planet Earth, but that's all we talk about.
I got to visit. My daughter was looking at colleges in city.
No, you can say Chicago. It's well known that I'm in
greater Chicago area somewhere. And I got to visit. I got to be in that very room that Dan is in there. It was very cool. And it gave me, and I will give you all the credit in the world, Dan. We took some pictures, and he asked us to turn off the geotagging, which is not anything I had ever thought about. And I now have had, when people are at my condo, again, you could probably find it anyway, but I've adopted your turn the geotag off, please, or whatever.
You can never be too safe,
Yeah. I also recently am spending a silly amount of money on something called deleteme.com, which was recommended by the New York Times and Wirecutter, that kind of scrubs your phone number, email, and address off of
I've done that.
Off of the internet, and I've sort of signed up for the family plan, and I've just been brought to you by deleteme.com.
So is it working?
Dreams are made of. I just did it, and they just sort of found a bunch and then requested a bunch to be removed, so I can't quite answer that yet. They definitely, it seems to be in the process of working, but they definitely they seem to know what they're doing. I'll leave it at that. So our new sponsor here at the Stuff Dreams.
Yeah, I had all sorts of fancy stuff done via our friends at HBO and Warner Media, because there was stuff going on, and it started freaking me out. So I had like phone numbers and
Ryan,
physical
you're
addresses.
A big target. Because of the show.
Yeah, because of the Stuff Dreams Are Made Of.
That's right, exactly.
Because of the fact that we spoke for 20 minutes about your airplane troubles the other episode, and that person got really upset. Yeah,
they've had it with me. They're coming after me. I've been in that basement too. I was privileged to be there, sort of for the grand opening, the first kind of public visit. Yeah, which was really exciting, and I can see I don't care to admit how long ago that was, because it does
It was a
actually
long time.
seem like it was 6 months ago, but it was a very long time ago, and I'm impressed to see how much it has kind of expanded and grown in that time. And I'm made nervous, a little nervous, Dan. I'm having like sort of proxy collector anxiety by seeing the Blade Runner gun
Sorry, dude.
so high on the wall up there. It's just making me very, very nervous.
It's locked in very tight. It's
Okay,
locked in
good.
very tight.
Good.
I think you would find, if you were back again, Ryan, you would find it's basically 2 inches taller than you on
Than
your
me.
tippy toes, like going like with your hand as stretching as much as
Perfect,
you
yeah.
humanly can.
Perfect.
But it's perfect for my
Just
eye
out
line.
of reach. Yeah, just
That's right.
out of reach. Yeah. Sorry.
That's right. That explains why Dan had me 3D scanned when I was last there.
That's right.
Yeah.
To measure.
I have to make sure the stuff's out of certain collectors' reach.
Very good. Dan, we just did our what's new in props. We usually just save that for ourselves, but now that we're having a collector on, which are always my favorite podcasts, we got to ask you, what's new in props for you?
Well, it's interesting.
Dan, can I interrupt you for
s-
one? Can I interrupt you for 1 second? Just because that's everyone's favorite part of the show is when I interrupt.
But you asked.
Feel free to talk as much as you like about United Airlines and just complain. about
United
them.
Airlines.
Yeah,
Okay.
people apparently it's like a new sort of hit segment of the show when we bitch about United. So yeah, please.
Particularly their
Sorry,
business
go on.
class section.
What did you acquire?
Well, I
recently?
mean, if we're going to talk about United Airlines, I just went through. I was on a United flight coming from from LA to Chicago, and I was bringing back some pieces that I had picked up in LA, which is some of which I'll show you. Pieces I picked up in auction last year, but I actually did not actually get until this last week,
Oh
as
wow.
well as a few items that I had brought from Chicago to go on to Access Live segment that I did in LA with Mario Lopez and company. And one of the pieces was my Temple of Doom whip. And certainly TSA did not like seeing that in my travel on, and they had to come, you had to open it up and swab it. And of course, you get lots of questions around a lot of people that are waiting for their material because it's taking so long because of my stuff.
Swab it
And
like
not
your
only,
your whip is a bomb. Like swab like that doesn't even make sense to me.
you know what? I could tie someone up with it, I guess. It's a rope.
But what's the
So
swab
but
gonna
why do
tell them?
what am I swabbing it for?
What are we swabbing?
to make sure that it's, I don't know. That's a good question. I think it's just a standard procedure. And then there's 2 other pieces that
Dave,
got,
that dangerous bullwhip could be a gun.
That's right. That's right. Well, technically it's a weapon. It is officially allowed via TSA regulations, but just like anything, the TSA inspectors can stop and inspect anything, which I
Yeah.
understand. It was
Yeah.
frustrating, but these 2 pieces that
They think you're a perv,
that I
Dan.
picked
All the
up
people waiting in line behind you just think you're a giant
that I'm
perv.
going to show you. Yes, exactly. This is what really took a long time. Some Blade Runner 2049 pieces I picked up.
Ooh,
So
was this from the auction?
this was from the original auction. Yes.
Oh,
so
the eye
I have the
scanner,
eye
nice.
scanner
Oh, that's
that
great.
opens up
Oh,
the lights
nice.
up.
The hero one. That's gorgeous.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, that's
So
wonderful.
this one, which is really fun. They definitely thought this was something dangerous. And then the one of the emitters, joy emitters. So
Oh,
this was all
cool.
packed up. Everything was really well packed up. And then they're opening this up and they're like, okay, what do I have to do? And then they had to open this up and then they pulled this out and like, what is this? And I had to describe it. And the 20 people waiting were both intrigued and really frustrated at the same time.
Yeah, they just forgot that they had bottles of water and firearms, their guns in their luggage, which is more normal
That's
for
right. Yeah, they
TSA
didn't
than
even
a
look at
bullwhip.
those.
Yeah.
What's so weird
Exactly.
is the last time I flew with props, I had it was pretty cool. It was from the movie Office Space, and it was a box cutter from Office Space, and no one stopped me.
Oh, Office Space is a wonderful film, and that I could see how they might think that you're going to try and chop someone's arm off.
Dave.
Seriously, I mean that was a joke, right? Or were you serious?
Yes, it was a joke.
Because I can see people wanting something from Office Space.
Yes,
That is a
but
very
probably-
desirable
No,
comedy.
mine was more of a Muhammad Atta joke. Sorry.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm dense
Very-
sometimes, Dave.
Very
Sorry.
timely and big with our audience. Thanks, Dave.
Well, we're getting we're approaching the anniversary, so that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Dan, when you get 2 pieces like that, both of which are pretty incredible, are you thinking about, or how do you decide like what you will make a space like on the wall for and add them sort of to what we're sort of seeing behind you, as opposed to a case somewhere else, or maybe perhaps or you know what I'm saying, like how do you what makes the wall?
The display aesthetic, what is the intention? So um I probably none of you out there know that I actually collect Blade Runner stuff, right?
Had no
Brian's
idea.
just hearing about this now as
Had
well.
heard
Had no
rumors.
idea. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I'm a closet Blade Runner collector, but I really enjoyed. It's a very different film, but I really enjoyed the sequel, 2049. I'm not sure what your guys' take on it. I know we've talked about it in the past, but I'll let you discuss it yourself if you want. But I love the film. It's not as good as the original. It never will be as good as the original, but I love it. And I remember. Immediately wondering what is possible, what are they going to do with this stuff, and then hearing a rumor that Prop Store had some of this stuff in storage and wanting to see it. So I've been basically drooling about these pieces for years. So I had a lot of time to save up money for what turned out to be a very expensive auction for
Yeah.
myself. I picked up not one but two K costumes.
Oh wow.
uh,
Okay.
Oh,
yeah, a Joy costume, a
Oh,
number
so
of
you
set
really
pieces.
you
I
fully
went
went
to
for it.
town.
Okay. So are you now in the process of getting those onto like mannequins? So will there be a full 2049
Yes,
wing.
display? Gotcha.
yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm not going to display everything. I'm planning initially in my display space. I'm working on, and I've mentioned this before. I'm working on a traveling exhibit of
Right.
AI related robotics and characters, and obviously, Blade Runner throws right
Yeah.
into that subject matter. So I bought a lot more material than I would have if it was just for my own purposes, my own nefarious collector purposes, but I wanted to have some bigger pieces. I bought the scanning machine that they, or not the scanning machine, the what I like to call the microfiche machine, where Joy and Kay go in and are looking for the serial number of the
Oh, right.
genetics,
Where they're trying to
right?
find
To
Hmm.
find out
what
the
they think is
baby's
the
connection.
baby. Yeah.
That's right. I picked that up. I picked up a couple of the replicant bodies, which they're a little weird, but I think that is really important to kind of show the idea of basically printing humans. This is what the future could hold. And So I picked up a lot of material, and as well as costumes of different characters specific that are AI related or robotic, artificial human related.
So did you pick up a Deckard costume or not, Dan? Where do you come down on that?
No, I
Is
did not, because
is Deckard
I
AI? Is
felt
AI?
like I had Deckard, he's represented already, and honestly, the costuming in that film for him was very ordinary and disappointing, in my opinion. But
Yes.
We actually talked about that at the time. I think we're both fans of the movie of 2049. I ultimately didn't pull the trigger on anything because the numbers did go kind of
yeah, they were very expensive.
kookier than I was expecting.
Well, I'm partly responsible
Yeah.
for that.
Well, but
Sorry,
you
guys.
didn't bid on everything. I mean, I was even on
No,
some of the other odds
just
and ends. Yeah,
98% of it.
yeah.
No.
But so the plan is to put a K near your Deckard, basically.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay. Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
That's pretty cool. That is excellent.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Very,
Hopefully,
very cool.
it doesn't take Blade Runner down a step because I'm presenting it with the sequel.
That was a thing that I struggled with myself, Dan, because as you know, Blade Runner is also one of my favorite films, and I've actually been lucky enough to amass quite a nice sort of Blade Runner '82 collection, and I really
have.
did love the modern film, and I was sort of stuck in this world of like I've been really regimented about only collecting from sort of the classic period, sort of like between 1977 and 1989, or between really 77 and Terminator 2 is really my window. And it's like, well, but I love Blade Runner and this sort of fits in, but it also doesn't fit in. And I was kind of back and forth. And that's ultimately why I felt like I had a strong enough representation of Deckard stuff from '82 that I loved the stuff, and I was really tempted by a K costume, which obviously a lot of people were, but I just ultimately I came down on the, because I'm happy with where my '82 collection is. I want to hold. I don't want to hit. I don't want to double
That
down.
makes sense. That makes sense.
I will say
But I
though,
totally get
I
why you went there.
I like 2049. I think we're all kind of agreeing on that. It's a different movie. It's maybe not the same as Blade Runner, but I still think it's likable. But what I like the most about it, I guess, is in no way, shape, or form does it invalidate the original. I mean, it doesn't make you hate the original the way some
No, it doesn't.
Some later
And that could
sort
have
of
happened.
yes, exactly. Some of these later sequels kind of do a little bit, and obviously there are certain other movies where I have just pretended that the various sequels and prequels never occurred, and it doesn't hurt the original trilogy, for example, or whatnot.
As have I.
Right. And, you know, the third Godfather doesn't hurt the first two, et cetera, et cetera. So it doesn't bother me. But I will tell you, in the world of comic art collecting, there have been things that I had, like, for example, I used to own, from DC Comics, I used to own some of the Death of Supergirl, Crisis 7. I think I had the complete issue for Crisis 7. And at some point or another, they brought her back. I think she's been brought back, 18 different times. She's not dead anymore. It was the story sort of invalidated itself, as did the rest of the Crisis on Infinite Earths story in general. And that pissed me off enough that at some point I did just kind of sell the art, that like whatever nostalgia I did have for that original story, like they had just so fucked with it. It did actually bother me. And so I've definitely been bothered more in comic art than in, I guess, movie world, wherever, I don't know, that it did occur to me.
That's interesting.
In an example like you give, which I think is a very valid one, that was a big deal when that happened. And that sacrifice that Supergirl does to save,
The
all of
multiverse,
these
yes, everybody,
bajillion of people, the multiverse is really, really important and strong. And you invalidate that by having her come back alive, because now it doesn't matter that she gave that sacrifice.
Yeah.
So I completely understand and agree with you.
It started to feel very pointless, and I just stopped caring at some point. So yeah, I
like the search for Spock.
Didn't bother me quite in the same. I kind of liked it because it. I don't know.
I tend to agree. I know. I mean, you make a very good point, Ryan, but for some reason that didn't affect me as much as a lot of other choices to do that kind of thing.
We were younger when it happened, so I think it was okay.
That is true. That is a good point. And we didn't want to live without Spock.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with that series, is that could not have gone on without. I think you could have done one movie without Spock, but it's just not would. It's your choice. Do you want Star Trek, or do you want bold storytelling?
I think if they had figured out how to if they decided that if he never wanted to play Spock again, and they could have held on to Kirstie Alley and figured out that dynamic, I think you. I'm not saying it's quote unquote better, but it could have been something. Anyway, this is I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Dan, you're a next gen fan, but you're not as much on the original series or the the Trek movies, the original cast, right?
I don't collect from the original show or the original movies. I love them, especially Star Trek 2, Star Trek 3, Star Trek 4, and Star Trek 6. Those I think those films are much better than the next gen films, actually. As much as I'm a next gen fan. Star Trek what?
You left out Star Trek 5.
There was no Star Trek 5.
Oddly.
They went from 4 to 6. Frontier. It's like the 13th floor in a apartment building. Yeah.
In my mind, that's what they did.
Yeah.
I guess it's not that bad, but it's pretty bad. But I have collected a decent amount of pieces from Star Trek Next Generation. I love Star Trek Next Generation. And my favorite Star Trek, believe it or not, is Deep Space Nine. I love that show. I think that show is I love what's about Deep Space Nine is so not Star Trek, is the ongoing storytelling in the war, how the Federation, this non-aggressive civilization, is being drawn into a war, and how all these different desperate civilizations that you've learned about getting together and butting heads. And I just thought that was super cool. Now,
yeah, Casablanca in
some
space.
people don't like it, and it's certainly not something you can pick up as easily and just watch an episode out of context, like a lot of Star Trek. But it's great. I love it.
But no androids. You don't have a data for your display, right?
No, I do. Actually, I do have a data custom.
No, I'm saying you do have a data custom, but I'm saying in Deep Space Nine, there's no robot character
there's no androids
for you to hook into for your exhibit and stuff. So yeah.
Nope.
There's Odo, which I guess is he's the closest thing to sort of that character, right? That's right.
Yeah. Someone trying to become human, even though he's organic, yeah. He's not.
Yeah.
Cybernetic.
Yeah. I got to work with Odo. Rest in peace, Rene Auberjonois.
Really?
He was in my first pilot.
He was in Six Gun, right? Yeah.
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah. It was incredible, and everybody all the film nerds on set wanted to talk. All the other actors and the director all wanted to get him to tell Robert Altman stories, and then very quietly I sidled up to him. I was like, "Can we talk about Deep Space Nine?" And he totally indulged me. He took me out to breakfast.
That's why I liked you, Ryan.
He took me out to breakfast, he's like, whatever you want to know. It was really good. Really good. He was a really good man, and I was very sorry to see
what I heard
when he passed. Yeah,
I heard he was
really good
a stand-up guy.
Really brought it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he could play all different types of characters.
Yeah. He was
very well.
He was only meant to be in the pilot. Spoiler: he died. He was like the kind of key surprise character who dies in the pilot and sort of sets the events in motion. But I imagine we would have done flashbacks or something with him. It was supernatural, so we could have found a way to bring him back because he was so goddamn good. Yeah. So Dan, we're very fascinated about your new venture, and we wanted to talk about it. We've been watching very interestedly as you've been posting videos online. I think it's a wonderful online resource for collectors, and I think it's the kind of thing that really sort of helps it's the thing that Dave and I are trying to do, I think, with this, other than just entertaining ourselves and having something to do outside of screenwriting. But it's trying to, like, I don't want to say legitimize the hobby because it's the wrong word, but it's trying to bring sort of kind of an air of legitimacy, importance around what we do. And I feel like there's no central online resource for this, whereas most of the other collecting worlds, comic art collecting, car collecting, watch collecting, all whiskey collecting, there are these places where you can go and hear experts talk on podcasts. There are blogs that you can read. There are, in the case of whiskey and cars and watches, there are magazines. Less so probably with comic art, but it just felt like this hobby, movie memorabilia collecting, was so wild and woolly, and people were interested in it from the outside, but were so afraid of the barrier of entry of knowledge of, like, how do I even learn? How do I know how many were made? What's real? It felt like a very kind of almost closed, like, sort of mafia, and I think one of the
very well described, because it is, in some ways it feels like very underhanded back in the day getting this stuff, and it wasn't, but from the outside looking in, it's like, oh geez,
it seems like you have this stuff. It seems like you have contraband, right? Because it's stuff that kind of shouldn't be out there, and we all know that's not really the case, but I think one of the things that we've been so delighted to hear from fans about this is how we have made this accessible, and people have been able to understand and come in. And I think we're doing this sort of two guys chatting about prop collecting. I think what you're doing, which is talking about a specific piece and getting doing this crazy video deep dive and going all in, is really another fascinating way, and to make it feel like this is a learnable hobby.
Oh yeah, one of the things we say on the show all the time is do your research, and we talk about doing your research. But I think one of the things that I love about Cinema Relics is you are doing the research on camera, for lack of a better word, for the audience. And I think no matter how many times we talk about a screen match and try and explain a screen match, and even if we try and show stills of a screen match, that's very different than sort of, how do I put this, sort of showing the discovery of, or researching something and talking to somebody about, okay, this guy made them, and here's documentation. There were 3. We know there are 4. This doesn't make sense. Whatever it is, but it is really, to me, it's do your research come to life, and I love it. I just fucking love it. It's been really really fun watching, and I'm excited for
Thank
more
you.
props.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
To hear that from you two guys means a lot, because I obviously I respect you as friends, but I respect you possibly even more, and that's saying a lot, as collectors, because you guys have your knowledge base is huge. And I mean, I don't want to just kiss your ass here, but I do feel
No, no, please
very,
do.
very, very honored, very honored that you guys dig what we're doing. Honestly, we are figuring out it as we go. Obviously, we did prop culture, and that was a very specific format. And when I've been thinking about doing my own show, separate from Disney, ever since the Disney show didn't get picked up for a second season, and ultimately I kind of hit upon this idea of, let's show the process of diving into a piece and what it takes to research it, and whether it's good or bad, we present that information. And I've been recommended by some people in the prop industry to say, well, you might not want to say that on camera because it may help hurt your value. It's like, well, if it is what it is what it is. And I want to share the process, the love, but the process of going through and researching these pieces, because you sometimes you get more than you ask for, and sometimes you get less than you ask for, and what you expect. And it's fun. It really is a lot of fun, as you guys know, diving into the details and trying to figure out what is the history of these pieces and how it was made. As you guys know, there isn't a resource about prop collecting like there is for these other subjects, because these other subjects, in most cases, have been around a lot longer than prop collecting, and they're also much more limited to a specific type of thing. Whereas prop collecting is everything, because anything could be used in a film. It's watches, it's cars,
Yeah.
it's clothing, it's fashion, it's animatronics, it's makeups, it's any of this stuff falls into it. So r- finding that information is difficult. So you really like
No, I was going to say it's
no, and
lost
it
knowledge in a lot of cases
and
because
it,
the
absolutely
guy
because
who, the guy who built there's a record of the guy who built like the Porsche 911 or whatever that you're collecting. So there's a known record about how that thing was built. In a way, the 3 people on this podcast probably know more about an Indiana Jones whip than probably anybody on earth except for David Morgan, who has passed away. And even maybe David Morgan doesn't really know specifically about Indiana Jones whips the way that we have, because we've thought
Well, it's
about them
interesting
in a
because
totally different way.
David Morgan made them and sent them, and so he may know numbers, he may know what he
Yes.
made, but he's probably, and I don't want, I'm not, this is not dump on David Morgan, but he didn't necessarily know how they were then used. Meaning,
Yeah.
it's one thing to make them and ship them off,
Yeah.
but how do you know that that went there or that went
because there's
where?
multiple people in that process
Right,
of
exactly.
pieces
Yes.
being used in a film, and you've got the person that makes it and the person that handles it and then the person that uses it on
Right.
set, and then
So
what happens to it afterwards, right?
Right.
So if you're only like talking to any one of those people, there is again a very useful viewpoint. It's an incredibly useful viewpoint, but it's that thing of like, I sent them 10, and if one guy goes, oh, we accidentally set 5 of them on fire, then that number changes. And again, I know
right.
I'm exaggerating, but you need both those pieces to get to and numbering is a very super simplistic way. I was going to ask you, in your first batch of shows that you've done so far, what discovery knocked you on your ass? What was there something you just like sort of found out about something that just really surprised you, good or bad, by the way, good or bad?
Let me think here.
In a strange way, I kind of like bad extra, but I'll take either.
Well, we have some episodes we haven't aired yet that I don't want to necessarily get in. We do have one case that in one of those episodes that it was a disappointing outcome. But I
Air
think,
that one like next week, and then this will come
well,
right after it, and then it'll
that's
be
right.
perfect. Yeah.
Well, this weekend we're airing an episode about Stormbreaker, one of
Oh.
the pieces in my collections from the Avengers series, and that wasn't necessarily a big reveal outside of the fact I tell the story about how I originally purchased what I thought was an original Stormbreaker, and it turns out it was a complete and utter fake, and how I had to go through the process of confirming it to the person I
Oh,
bought it from, who I'd gotten a lot of pieces from, somebody that you guys have talked about poorly in the past, that I've had problems with myself,
I don't
and
know who you're talking about.
ultimately, yeah, 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 and
Hashtag private deals.
that's right, right. But ultimately, because of that, I had done so much research on it. When a piece came up for auction, that was honestly, it was a Marvel charity auction.
I was gonna say that
Uh,
was the charity one. I
that
remember
was the
when that
charity
came up.
piece,
Yeah.
and I
Oh,
was already like, well, I've already paid for half of this thing as a fake. I might as well throw some more money in and go all in, and I did. And it didn't cost that much money in the whole scheme of things. So it's an interesting story. It's an interesting story.
wow.
Um,
Okay, I'm
So
into that.
yeah,
when you were checking out the real Stormbreaker, the one that was in the
yep,
charity auction, you're looking at the photos that they're putting up,
yep.
and at this point you've done research to kind of know the other one was fake.
Yeah,
I
all
mean,
the tells. I had figured out all the tells so that when I saw what they were presenting, I knew exactly that it matched everything that was wrong about all the other pieces, including the one that I had purchased.
and sometimes these things, these quote unquote things that are wrong, they're tough. I mean, I have these fake Harry Potter wands that I keep meaning to just throw on eBay and sell as, replicas, because that's what they are,
Yep.
basically. They were sold to me as real wands, and they are not. And the easiest thing I can say about them is like they're kind of too thick, and I don't want to get much more specific than that at the moment, but they're just not as elegant as the real ones
Sure.
should be.
Elegant and delicate.
Yes, exactly. And
Generation
yeah,
loss, right? Yeah.
right. And there's a color thing going on. And again,
Hmm.
this is again, it's perhaps an episode of Cinema Relics. By the way, I want to pitch this to our audience because we didn't have enough time. But for next season, we've been talking about this idea with Dan, which is the idea that we will pick a prop, maybe from one of our collections or something like that, talk about it here, or maybe the confusion we're having with it, and then maybe hand it over to Dan in the greater Chicago area and kind of put it through the Cinema Relics CRI/CSI system of
Yep.
like sort of
Exactly.
figuring something out. So if anyone's got a pitch about like something that they'd like to know more about, maybe from one of our collections, something that we've talked about, or something that they're curious about, it'd be really fun. It would be kind of a you start with us and then you go to an episode of Cinema Relics. So anyway, I'm pitching our audience for some suggestions. Right
Yeah,
to us,
I like
please.
that, and yeah, and you guys come in with things, and they would sort of have to be something that either Dave or I, or preferably I think both of us, have in our collection, because then we could do one of these sort of. I mean, the great thing to find would be if I had a thing and Dave had a thing and Dan had a thing, and we could figure out a
Compare
way
'em.
to
Right.
to do
Yeah.
yeah, and to do the comparison thing. That would be great fun. I was just, it's funny. I was just talking
We could
to
do
somebody about.
our three Stormbreakers.
All right.
Hammer time.
I was just talking to somebody about Wrath of Khan phasers, and
I saw that email. Yes.
that was a fascinating process, and that might, I don't know, that there might be something in there to
Well, I
take a
think
Would
look
love
at.
to do it with
There's,
that.
I think there's
Yeah.
something in there because at this point we've seen heroes, we've seen stunts, and we've seen fake stunts. So that could
Yeah.
be interesting. And there were ones that were from the motion picture that were then reused, but then I think
Yes.
they also made new ones, and that is some of the confusion. And
Yeah.
maybe sometimes par for the course when it comes to Star Trek, which is sometimes,
Well, the thing
especially,
about it, in a situation like that, where you have two disparate designs that are different, that are both being supposedly from the film, without that information of knowing that some came from a prior film,
yep,
you might be inclined to say one of the two is wrong, but it all comes down to that research and
Yeah.
that information and finding that lost, those lost stories that, like Ryan said, they're just going away because, when you're making a Porsche and you document it because you're doing, 900 of them or 1500 of them for collectors, and they're super expensive. But when you make stuff for a film, you're making one, two, five, 10 maybe, and you're on to the next thing, and you don't have time to document this stuff. So
Yeah.
it's really important to try and get that information, and that is a big part of what we do. But sometimes if I got like the stuff for the Blade Runner auction, I didn't go in and do a whole CSI investigation on it because I felt confident the material was good. So, but sometimes that gets swapped out. You never
Yeah, I
know. I
mean
mean,
the
honestly,
source was obviously the best source you could ask for, which is the studio. We knew that stuff was on lockdown since
right.
the film finished. Plus, Prop Store did a remarkable and
way,
commendable amount of
hold
research
on, let's
themselves.
stop
They
there a
did.
minute. Do you remember when that auction, the lead up to that auction, the sheer amount of angry people claiming that they had Kay's gun, that they had the little what was it?
The
The
horse.
little the horse and whatever.
The wooden horse, yeah.
Right, and it was all, again, private deals, and that it was all real and whatnot, and it was just it was bullshit. I mean, it was, as we've talked about on the show before, possibly coming from the same, sources, but not production used, not finished the same way.
Right.
A lot of those
Not
things,
made for
but
production, made to be kept as an extra.
Right, made afterwards. Made, by the way, not just made as an extra, because I've definitely bumped into, in my world, off of the Star Wars movies, there are crew gifts, or even not just crew gifts. There are high-end crew gifts where they made, like, for example, on the Phantom Menace, they made a limited number of Millennium Falcon hologram chess tables that they made and went to, key producers, key people, whatever. So that's not a crew gift like they're giving it to, every PA. I don't know the number. They might have made probably 20 or so or something like that. High-end gift for people that are involved. But made by the same place, that was making that made the table for the Falcon, for the Force Awakens. But where I was going with it is the problem you run into is, of course, when they're making it to sell to idiots. That's the problem. Yeah. And I don't mean idiots in a mean way. I just mean when something is too good to be true, it often is too good to be true.
I'll admit, I've been one of those idiots.
I was too. I'm the first to say it.
It happens.
Dan had to break all the fake Blade Runner 2049 props with his fake Stormbreaker to make sure that they didn't get disseminated back out into the public.
Dan, was there one thing in the course of the fake Stormbreaker that really hit you over the head, or what was the thing? Was there something that got you sort of itchy to begin with, where you started to kind of go, I'm not sure this looks right? Was there I don't know, not a telltale sign, but...
there was. It was a combination of things. It felt a little too clean, a little too new.
Yep.
It had signs of 3D printing that in my head was okay, these original pieces could have been 3D printed, but they wouldn't have made it so obvious. And then when I showed it to Martin, who's on our show,
yep,
Martin did a deep dive, and we sat down with him, and he pointed out, because he 3D prints stuff all the time, and he pointed out things that you wouldn't have done if this was done for production versus a one-off to be sold. And then once we had that, we knew it was wrong, and then we had to go and prove it. So I don't want to cut the information from the show, but ultimately what happened was we came across an Etsy seller who's selling a 3D print or a 3D model of Stormbreaker, and everything that was wrong about our Stormbreaker was exactly on that one.
Wow.
Like things that you wouldn't, like behind roots and stuff of the head, and the way it came together, it was completely, absolutely made by this person, or at least the file was.
Yeah.
So at that point, that's how I kind of proved it, and ultimately I never got all my money back. The guy just kind of fucked me over. So it was the last time I dealt with him.
If it would make you feel better, I can give you some shitty Harry Potter wands that I got from the same guy, if you like. That make you warmer, a little happier.
It doesn't. The part of the reason I do this show, and I'm sure you guys are doing the same thing, you don't want this to happen to other people, because the more crap that gets disseminated into the collecting world, the more bad information there is, the more shit that's circulating as real that other people are getting burned, and then you'll get burned again.
Yeah,
it's just out of self-interest, honestly.
It's bad for everybody. And I have no horse in this game, in this race, in this game. I have no horse in this race at all, because I collect only, classic stuff that, now they're so well researched that we can sniff out fakes. But
You're the only
think about
one smart here, Ryan.
I don't know about that, but I worry for the next generation. I don't see how, with the abundance of fake Potter stuff, with the abundance of fake Marvel stuff, with the abundance of fake sort of next gen Disney era Star Wars stuff out there, that in 10 years, I don't know how that any of that stuff is collectible without a screen match, or without a studio auction, a studio letter. And even that stuff, I think, is problematic without a screen match, because there's so much fake crap floating around out there, and it's easy to copy a letter, and it's easy to make up a letter. It's really worrisome. And then I just worry about, like, if this is, if the stuff that the three of us on this podcast are really most concerned with, which is, let's face it, the genre height of the 70s, the 80s, and some of the 90s.
Yeah, right.
If once we age out, and once that becomes the 60s television of our current era, do people still care enough to collect? And is this a concern and interest that kind of goes
I think
away?
Only the best of the best will continue to be interesting. You look back at paintings and you see Renoirs and Monet selling for, millions and millions of dollars, but how many other painters that were just as good as those guys that painted those paintings that have just been lost to obscurity because nobody cares about that? It's just it's what is going to be considered the gold standard of our era as we age out and die, and the newer generations are looking back at the older films. There's no way for us to really know.
Rembrandt actually used to make fake Star Wars helmets as well. People didn't know that about it.
There is, by the way,
those are worth a lot, actually.
There's a really interesting piece floating around. There was a news story about it, which is one of Leonardo's students. They found a copy of the Mona Lisa, but it doesn't have all that smoke damage and whatnot, so you can actually see all the details on it. But it's just like one of his students. It's not the Mona Lisa. It's not Leonardo da Vinci, but you actually can sort of see some of the stuff that you can only see like in the X-rays and whatnot. I will say something, and I hope I'm not sounding like too big an asshole, but I do think when we are gone, and I don't know, I'm not saying that this is why I'm doing it, but I do think that which we will leave behind, which in theory, if our children and loved ones do it right, the pedigree collection of our stuff that gets broken up will mean something. I think that it is in our collection, and that we worried about this stuff, and it might mean something more than a random, like a random indie whip, as opposed to an indie whip from your collection, Ryan, where you have, whatever, hopefully in a perfect world, screen match it, or this or that or whatever.
Yeah.
And
or at least research.
Right. But I'm just saying, I'm making this all up. But I do think there is something to be said for the pedigree of it all. I will say, in defense of modern props, when I was at Dan's and I got to hold the Stormbreaker, and my son, it was his absolute favorite thing. I mean, he liked everything, but he loved that piece, and we did many shots with it, and it's pretty fucking great. And it does have that, I mean, there's a patina to it of use, not crazily so, not broken, but
that's right.
But there's something to it that. Yeah,
and studio made, like made
when something is too clean, it's not right. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, though, to be fair, the really good replicators are building in that wear.
Well, I'm sure that's coming.
You just have to stay on top. We just have to stay on top of it. That's it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't want to give anybody an idea, but I do. They have yet to. They're building in wear, but at least for the moment, they're not making like Black Panther helmets where they're cracking lenses. Do you know what I mean? Because that's a lot of times when I've seen those in the real world, it's the pounding that they've taken, or why they were sort of pulled out of production, perhaps, but that the fact that they were used and they were beaten the shit out of, because that's what happens in a Marvel movie. And I realize
It does.
that is a generalization. Because something has a crack doesn't mean it's real. But you know what I'm kind of going for there.
Yeah,
but,
I mean the other thing that that I'm kind of waiting for, and Dan, this was many years ago, but one of the reasons that I always loved the Grail Cup that I ended up doing a deal with you for was because it had that oddball detail on it. It had the little ball
Yes.
bearing at the bottom of the cup, which we did
Right.
later authenticate and very nicely, sort of the way life comes back around. I'm working on House of the Dragon with Mike Dawson, who worked in special effects on all the original indie films, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I remember that one because I built it. I had to have it commissioned, and it was made to run on like a rail system so they could control how it was rolling around in the final temple." He could not tell me actually whether he could remember whether it was actually used in the film, because they built a bunch of those rigs because they didn't quite know what Spielberg was going to want to do and what what he needed to do. And I think we always assumed that there was some story around it, based on that. And it was nice to have it authenticated. But what I loved about it before we knew that story is that odd little detail. That's the thing that you would look at and you're like, nobody would ever fake this. Nobody would ever
Why?
sink
We
a
couldn't
ball
even
bearing into the.
figure out why it was there.
And
I
there
do
are
think
tons
it's
of Grail Cup replicas out there, and
That's
ones
right.
that weren't necessarily made nefariously because people just love the Grail Cup, but things have gotten muddy and mixed, and that was a great way of saying, okay, that's how you know this one is original. But I'm waiting for the faker, this really smart faker that does something like that, to do the odd detail where somebody's just like, well, why is there
Well,
why is this in
I
there?
I I would imagine the chances are that some of them have done that, and we just haven't picked up on it. We
well,
haven't been presented it.
that
I'm
is
not saying in our
horrifying. Yeah.
collections, but I'm just saying
No,
in the world of fakes.
I mean, look, it's certainly worth their time and worth their while if they can do
I'm
something
sure
like
they're
that.
listening
Yeah.
right now, getting
Yeah, no,
ideas.
exactly. I like that they hate us.
Bastards.
They hate us so much, but they listen to every word we say.
They do.
But
Yeah.
Are they talking about me? Oh, I hope they're talking about me. It's what sustains me and keeps me alive.
we were both quite shocked by just the shittiness of that last Han Solo gun at I mean, like that, like where you just kind of go, I understand your play here. You're trying to create $1 million prop, but you spent it's like you're like the kid that comes in the next morning and is like, I just wrote my paper. I mean, it was really they glued it together on the
Really
school
obvious.
bus. Yeah, exactly.
We can rebuild them. We just don't want to spend a lot of money.
Right.
Money. That's right.
Yeah, it's.
I'm not willing to put the time in to produce a convincing fake. But that's scary, is the ones that either haven't done it yet or may have, and we just haven't picked up on it.
I have a diabolical scheme, and I also have $49 and 15 minutes of time.
And a very...
Those are the ones we want to be producing the fakes.
And
we can
very true.
And ADD, because I can't really focus on anything. Yeah. Dan, tell us a little bit about your team, because I know there's some of them that you've been working together for a while, but it is a real. I like it because it's very Dirty Dozen. I feel like you kind of went out and got a knife guy, and you got this guy,
explosives expert, martial arts expert.
Yeah, that's right. We're the P team. The A team of props. No, it's our team. To be fair, is very male and very white. It's just happens to be the people that I'm working with. I'm not trying to, just hire, white males, at least on camera, certainly. But Martin is somebody that I've known for 15 years. I
Martin's
met
very
him
talented.
through. I met him at Comic-Con one year when he was presenting Coraline with
Martin
with Leica.
Martin comes out of the stop motion world. That is his sort of specialty.
But he's worked in worked in stop motion.
Over,
he's worked at Tippett's in animation. He's built props. He's done it all. And he's actually won a Technical Academy Award for bringing 3D printing to Coraline.
Oh wow!
So he's just a good friend, and he's the guy that I'm always bouncing stuff off of when I have questions about build. And he doesn't know everything, but he has an enthusiasm about this stuff that just is palpable, and he's super knowledgeable. And if he doesn't understand it, he will spend a ton of times. He actually, I when we were working on prop culture and we were going to do the restoration of the shrink ray for Honey I Shrunk the Kids, he was the guy that I wanted, and he did such a better job that I could have ever possibly imagined, because he dove into and sourced all these original pieces. That is not his expertise, but he figured it out, and he spent like 18 hours a day working on this thing. He does not sleep. He just works, works, works. So he's somebody that I trust a lot and work
He's one of
really
those
well with.
guys. I love him. He's one of those guys that can just say to you, "That's the wrong color resin for 1986."
That's right.
And you're just like,
And he knows.
"Yeah, no, he absolutely knows."
He knows.
And that's a make or break point on a
That's right.
on a prop. Because if they're saying, forgive me, this is Jedi, then the resin should be a certain color for that period. And this
That's right.
and if it's the wrong color, it's because it's a later casting. And there you go. There's an answer.
Right.
So yeah.
And his connections in the industry, everybody knows who Martin is.
Yeah,
So
he's worked with
he can
everyone.
call
Yeah.
anybody up and say, hey, remember this thing, and he can get that information just with a phone call or an email.
And they'll talk about it. Yeah.
Switching over to Caleb, Caleb Stenzinger is a guy I met through Prop Store. He actually used to work for Prop Store as one of their screen matchers, and he was somebody who, when I was looking to replace, I had a guy working for me. His name was Cody Frederick, who now works at Julian's as in marketing, and he's one of their auctioneers. Cody um, uh, was working for me, moved to LA for me, and wound up working on our show. And he was switching gears. He was kind of rising in the ranks and wanted to do some bigger and better stuff. So I needed to replace him. So I asked around. I'm trying to find somebody who really knew what they're doing. And I had interacted with Caleb before, but I wasn't really friendly with him. But when Brandon recommended him, and I sat down with him, and then Cody's like, "Yeah, this is the guy that should this should replace me." I was super happy with him. He's hyper educated. He went to school in England. He's got a master's in English literature as well as some other degree. He loves movies. He loves props. He's done some acting in the past. He definitely was the guy for me to bring in and be my archivist. So he's basically that guy that's in charge of my expanding collection, and he works for me full time, tracking all that stuff.
Dave, we
Sorry,
need
my headphones
archivists.
just
Why
turned
don't we have archivists?
I know. Why don't we have an archivist? Well, in
it's
our
pompous
defense, Ryan,
that I
in
have-
our in our defense, Ryan, we're much more equal opportunity employers. Like, yeah. So I mean, I don't know, like.
You
Anyway.
bastard. but
That's
seriously
He's,
though,
he's really great. He's really educated. He's white. He has a penis.
no, that's well, honest. There's not many women that collect. To be fair, there are some, but it's harder to find women that are in the collecting world.
Men
and
collect
that's where I
and
was
women
getting
throw
my,
out. That's the.
That's right. But Caleb,
Ryan and mine's architect, Dana, is the finest female archivist in the prop world. That's all I'm going to say. And we're proud of her. No, she doesn't exist.
She's an AI.
see, I can't tell when you're joking, Dave.
Sorry.
It's
No,
a
I'm joking.
superpower.
And then Carson's just this guy that I hired because he was helping me with my previous film, Izzy Lion, and he's a smart kid, and he just between jobs, and I brought him on to help Caleb, and the next thing you know, we brought him in as the young kid that doesn't really know the movies very well, and asking the questions that we need asked, but we're don't want to ask each other questions we already know the answers to.
He's the audience. Yeah.
He's the audience perspective. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think one of the fun things is the fact that unlike our show where we try to do this, I feel like there are non-prop collectors actually watching Cinema Relics, that you're getting people that are just intrigued, whereas
movie fans.
We talk a big game and we don't get any of those people. But
that is by design. We wanted to make sure that our show was scalable and approachable to a bigger audience, but I still wanted to feel legitimate to who I am and what all of us are in this field. I wanted it to not. I didn't want to dumb it down, and I wanted it to be, and we're still figuring it out. Like, every episode we do something a little differently. We're trying to make it so that it feels legitimate, it feels accurate, that our information is right, that there's a bit of a drama in there, in the story, that we're making it so that people that are drawn in and want to watch the entire episode instead of just watching the first 5 minutes and turning it off, which is happens on most content nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's been tough, but we're getting there. We're happy with how things are moving along.
Yeah. I mean, it's very exciting. My question is there something out there that you guys would like to cover and would like to do, but you don't have access to, or you need another one as a counter example? Is there stuff that you have on your like wish list for the future of like, I wish I could?
I think initially the idea was to do pieces in my collection only because I have access to it and I know the stories.
Sure.
And it gives us a leg up on it. But the goal is not to just do pieces from my collection, is to try and work with other collectors to do these investigations on pieces that are far and wide from the entire world of collecting movie props. So I would say, based on that, Star Wars pieces, pretty much, any of the stuff that you guys have, I would love to do a deep dive on. Classic film stuff, like even though it's not our shtick, I would love to do a Maltese Falcon. I mean, you know, any of the kind of really big important pieces. I'd love to do a story on the Robbie the robot that sold in the auction, what, 8 9 years ago, because I know some of those pieces are replica, and trying to get to the bottom of what's original, what's not. I think there's a lot of great pieces that have had interesting stories. The ruby slippers that were stolen and then sold. I would love to do an episode on that, and actually it would be like a 3 or 4 length episode because there's so much story behind there.
You're going to need a jeweler, because I don't know if you know this, they're covered in real rubies. That's what we
right.
That's
yeah,
what we learned.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it would be great, Dan. Here, I'm going to pitch you an episode. I know you. I don't think you have. You used to have one, but you don't have one anymore. It'd be really great to get. We know so many collectors with stormtrooper helmets. It would sure be great to like get all of them, in the same room. Get like 5 of them, all from A New Hope or whatever.
Because it would be interesting, and again, we have certainly talked about it. But to do a hero and a stunt from Star Wars, to do one of the ones that was made but not used that much from Empire, and then again the Jedi ones, which the different construction. Just to look at the plastic and whatnot would be really interesting. Yeah.
I think you guys, obviously you understand the importance of doing something like that. When you bring different pieces together and you're viewing them under the same light, you can see size differences very obviously. You can see color differences. You can see how the materials are different. It's much more difficult to do that in photos, comparing pieces from different films. I don't know, Dave, if you want to. You can cut this if you want, but we recently compared whips that from Raiders, Last Crusade, and Temple, between the two of us and one other collector who doesn't want to be named yet. And to see the difference in color and shape and how all that works, and still feel, it's fascinating, and to have it in the same light, because when you're looking at photos, it's hard to do that. And even in the film, even the older films, the film stock changes the way something looks. Or now with digital grading, it changes the way things look.
Yeah, seeing the 3 whips together was incredible, and it changes even. This is a very sort of strange sentence, but we have photos from the summit of the 3 whips together, but I feel like I understand the photos better because I was there touching and holding them, and so the colors have a more specific meaning. And I'll give you another example, similar but different, just back to Stormtroopers for a second, just because I now in my collection have the Greg Jean Hero Stormtrooper from Star Wars,
right?
But I have my previous stunt Stormtrooper helmet. Like, you can look at a photo and you can kind of go, do you see this difference? You see this difference? And there are differences. In person, they look like different species. I mean, like in person, it hits you over the head. It punches you in the face. It's very
obvious.
Yeah, it's so different in person in a way that our yabbering won't necessarily convey.
And this is really important, and I think this is a thing that CRI, Cinema Relics Investigations, has done very well and can continue to do. Is it's the next best thing to doing what Dave is talking about. And we run into all the time. We run into these like sort of, and I say this word and I don't mean it pejoratively, but this like replica world crowd that they have looked at stuff and they've analyzed photos and screen captures and all that. And that is all great. But really, to truly be an expert in this stuff, you don't have to own it, but you have to handle it and look at it.
That's right.
And turn it around your hand and hold it in the light and smell it and feel it and, feel the weight in your hand.
And masturbate on it. Yes.
Correct.
I think we're a different type of collectors, Dave.
that's however you get to know the prop. But that, I was just having a conversation with somebody about this exact thing where somebody was purporting to be an expert that no doubt knew a lot from looking at watching the movie a bunch of times and looking at pictures, but this was not a person that had ever
figured out like, oh, that piece is this off of this and this, identifying
that sort of thing. The reverse engineering,
all valid.
Yeah. But this person had never owned one of these pieces or had actually ever handled a real one before. And I was like, how are you putting this person's expertise out there, not against my who am I, but the collected knowledge of all of these other collectors who handled this thing and are looking at it and saying this is not correct, but we're pointing at one of these people. And I just think, and look, not everybody has the resources to get in touch with this stuff, but that's why this knowledge base is so important, because we have handled it and we have looked at it and we can impart this knowledge to other collectors so that the sort of oral history of this stuff, continues on to the next masturbator.
Well said.
I do
here. And the end.
I do think.
See you next week, everyone.
Yes. And scene. No, I think there is something to be said. You do not have to own these pieces, but if you could handle them, feel how the material feels in your hands. Not wearing gloves, as long as your hands are clean, because I do feel like, gloves.
Jesus, Dan, you pervert.
I know. But smelling the stuff, we've joked about it in numerous episodes of our show. Smelling it is very important because you can sense there's different smells of different resins. There's different smells of different types of leather. You don't have any idea of that information coming at you unless you handle it. And I do think there's something to be said about, if you're an expert, you need to have physically interacted with pieces so you can know what they really, as much as you can, without putting it through an MRI machine and chemically analyzing the piece. You're going to know as much about it as anybody else can.
Dan, this was great.
This
anything
was
else?
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, this was
so fun. This is. I really appreciate you guys calling me up again to be on the show. I know I have something to talk about this time, which is fun.
No, it's good. So tell us, in case anyone doesn't know, where can they find Cinema Relics? Tell us.
Yeah, so Cinema Relics Investigations is on YouTube. It's the Cinema Relics channel on YouTube. We have our new episodes post. We ideally every weekend, but sometimes we miss weekends because we're busy doing other work. But ideally, we'll be coming out with episodes every weekend. We also have segments from my old show, Prop Culture, from Disney on there, as well as little fun little pieces that we shoot for, openings, box openings, and things like that. It's just all related currently to movie props, but we're trying to grow that into some other things. So hopefully you'll see some more interesting content. But check it out. Cinema Relics Investigates on the Cinema Relics channel on YouTube.
And we'll have links everywhere on both our socials and even in our YouTube channel to get you to their YouTube channel. Yeah.
You should be seeing these guys on my show, hopefully in the future, in multiple episodes. I'd love to have you guys out.
Great.
I know it's a little easier for Dave than it is for Ryan, but Ryan, I do have an episode I'd like to pitch you.
Okay.
That is a sequel to a previous episode that you are very familiar with, and we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
An in-person comparison, we'll say.
I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, we can sort that out. I will be in the U.S. for a good stretch next summer, so it's something that we can plan for. So let's figure that out. I would totally be into that.
Great.
This was so great, Dan. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to doing one of these investigations with you, at least one of these in person. I think that's a great crossover, so we can boost and lift each other and get the good word out there.
Sounds great.
And as always, find us at Props Podcast on all social media. Write us dreamsaremadeofpodcast@gmail.com. If there's something that you would like Cinema Relics to investigate, write to them, write to us. We'll pass it on.
It could be
Dan.
something we have. It could be something in general. It could be something you have in your collection.
Yes,
by the way, do you guys think that someday, I don't know exactly what the service would be, but I've always been surprised at like the auction houses, like where you could conceivably like go, here's this can I pay you to see if you can find the screen match, to kind of do like a little report on it. And it's not exactly like comic grading, but it's not comic grading. Do you know what I'm kind of going for? I've just been surprised that it doesn't exist. I don't know, just always thought it would be interesting.
Yeah, I think ultimately the reason something like that doesn't exist now is because the people that have that knowledge generally are working either collecting themselves or selling for other people. And if you're getting money for it, you're getting a bigger percentage of, let's say, or a percentage of something that sells, versus what can you charge somebody to validate a piece, and how
Or
much
to
time does it
invalidate
take you to do that? But I do think a service like that would be incredibly helpful and important, and perhaps we can put our minds together and convince somebody to do it.
This may not be the moment in the last 30 seconds of the show, but I guess
Let's create a new business.
Yeah, I've always felt that, again, like with comic books, and I don't love the grading thing. What I don't like about the grading is just that you can't read the book, but I guess that's not the point when you're grading. But the one thing that it definitely did was, if you're buying on eBay or wherever, and you're buying sort of sight unseen, if you're buying a 4.0 book, it's a 4.0. Do you know what I mean?
Assuming it's a real 4.0,
well,
right?
Yes, exactly. Assuming they haven't faked the CGC, but yeah. But you know what I'm kind of going for, like some sort of a
standard.
Because I do think when there is a good match, like a screen match or whatnot, like from something purchased in an auction, that screen match stays with it. So you'll see it even if it shows up in another auction house. It will say, screen match, blah 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 blah, from this other auction house. And just a way of trying to get that into our world. Anyway, not perhaps that's an episode, not these final 7 seconds. So anyway, sorry.
That's it. Thank you, Dan, and we'll see you next time.
Wait, one more idea.
Thanks, guys.